we sometimes really get excited when we see that something is happening and we want to give it that little push. And being that I am a birth worker and I've been in the birth space for a very long time, I have really recognized just how much pressure is put on moms, especially to get that baby out. We have due dates. Oh, when's your due date? Oh, you're approaching your due date. Any signs of labor yet? Is baby coming? And how true is this both in birth, but also in relationships? Oh, has he popped the question yet? Is he going to commit your business? Oh, are you making the money yet? You know, you've been at this for a while. Where's the success that you said was coming? It's probably never going to happen at this rate because you're obviously not doing enough. But here's the thing about success that I have really recognized is that sometimes the reward comes outside of what you would expect. And I was talking to a friend of mine weeks ago. We were getting into a discussion. This is a relationship I've been building over a very, very long time. Because when I first saw her speaking out there on her truths of what she was seeing, this sparked something in me, this passion for birth. And I have just followed her ever since. So, a couple of years into my discovery of what I wanted to do, I became a rally coordinator and I started working more like for her organization. I'm like, I'm going to do this for her cause. And people were like, well, you know, you don't seem to be getting paid for this. This is just volunteer work. This is not going to turn into anything. So I don't understand why you're spending all of your time doing that. And I'm like, just you wait. Just you wait. Because just like with birth and labor, you do not want to rush your own process. And sometimes there are lessons you need to learn. Sometimes you need to get into a higher vibrational match for what you want. Back in the beginning as a rally coordinator, I thought she was like way higher level than me. And there was no way that anybody with her caliber of experience would even want to talk to me. And the thing is that we're talking. We are cheering each other on. She's just done something amazing and she's launched a podcast. And I listened to the episode yesterday and everything that she said ties into this. So, I mean, later you might want to go and check it out. Go check out my business profile, Empowering Mom's Birth. You can check that out on Facebook, or I also have it in my link tree now as well. So that's on my Instagram at Empowering Mom's Birth. Basically, everything that I learned from her is what started my own journey and seeing where the gaps were. And recognizing that you can have all of the information that says that babies come when they're ready. You can have all the information that says that babies don't actually like get ready to be on the outside until their lungs are fully developed, and that if you take them before that protein in the lungs is developed, you're screwing up the process. We know that Pitocin sucks. We know that it makes labor harder. We know that rushing the process of labor can make it even more stressful. We also know, because I mean, I experienced this firsthand, everybody was giving me all this pressure. When are you going to go into labor? And I had stop and start labor for weeks on end because everybody else was eager. It's like, well, we've got to get things set up. We need to know when to babysit your son. And come on, you got to get this going. And my sister at the time, she was also having me babysit her kids. So I needed to take some time off of that. So I was feeling pressure to have my baby before she was actually ready. And little Miss Michaela does what little Miss Michaela does. But even during my labor, I felt like I had to perform for the midwife and for the doula. And this is true of everything. Are you out there doing your magic, doing your thing, birthing your project, or creating this new relationship? Are you paying attention to your own process and what feels right and aligned for you? Or are you focused on what other people think you should be doing? I should be further ahead by now. It's been 3 years. I should be further ahead by now. I've been working at this for 3 months. I should be further ahead by now. And instead of recognizing that, hey, maybe you're getting progress in a different area that you need more at the moment than what you are outwardly focusing on, you're instead focusing on what's not happening. I've been in labor for 24 hours and nothing's happening. She's still not out. Well, in that case, I started to recognize the futility of having the midwife and the doula there. It was starting to get stressful because I knew that they had their own external protocols of what they would need to do. The doula was feeling the frustration of being like, the midwife is definitely going to have to call rank at some point because of her own limitations and what she needs to do and what the hospital is going to expect because she had to call the hospital in order to say a home birth is taking place. There's a whole big mess with that. And of course, I have friends in the birth industry who have confirmed this for me. And I've seen all these pieces and I understand that birth being a business, which is what it is in the medical system, it's not a very stable model unless you control it. And the same thing is like when you're creating a business, you want to make that money, right? If you have a relationship that has been going a certain pace, but you know that they're the one, or maybe you're trying to repair a relationship with someone and it's taking longer than you thought, but you know this is it. Instead of focusing on what you think needs to happen in that moment to speed it up because you're either excited or you're worried of something going wrong, you need to be able to be okay with what's so. So, one thing I learned in my labor process with my daughter is that after 24 hours, labor actually stopped completely. Just done. Nothing happening. Nothing was wrong except to the outside world. Oh, labor has now stopped after 24 hours. What's going on? Maybe baby's in trouble. No, baby was not in trouble. Well, what if she can't do it? Maybe she needs a C-section. Maybe she needs Pitocin. Maybe she needs her waters broken. Maybe something needs to happen to give this baby a little push to actually start labor again. No. Do you know what needed to happen in order for me to go back into labor? I needed to feel safe. I needed to get off of that timeline. I needed to throw that timeline out the window and say, you know what? This might not be it. Maybe this was just a little warm up, but this might not be it. I'm going to bed. So I went to bed. And at the time, I was also thinking, it's like, I'm really sad right now. I really thought she would be here. And I'm really disappointed because it's not working out. At the same time, this is what's so. My daughter is not in any danger. I'm not in any danger. Other people might think that there's a problem, but do I think there's a problem? No, I don't think there's a problem. What's the real problem? The real problem is other people's expectations of what I should do. And this is part of what I really embody now is I honestly don't care what anybody thinks of me. And today in class, well, it's sort of like a class, but today in our group, Donald said, Carly doesn't seem to care what anybody thinks of her. That's part of it. And I'm like, you nailed it. And it took me a very long time to get to the point where I truly did not care what anybody thinks of me. I used to say I don't care, but there was always a part of me that was like, but I won't be loved, but I won't be respected, but I won't be appreciated. If I say this thing or I don't say this thing, if I do this thing or I don't do this thing, like I honestly don't care, but I do care. And you have to actually get to the point where it's like, I really don't care because I'm following my own path. And you also have to be completely okay with the reality of the situation. See, when you're birthing anything, whether it's a business or whether it's a relationship, a partnership, new children in the world, anything that you are creating, there is a secret timeline because you are co-creating with the universe. Just like with pregnancy, you are co-creating with your baby. Your baby has their own timeline of when they're going to be ready, when their lungs are going to be fully mature, so that they can then say, okay, I'm ready for the outside. Now, the medical system likes to say things like, oh, well, if your baby doesn't come by 40 weeks or 39 weeks or 41 weeks, then it's automatically a problem and we need to induce. And a lot of my clients have felt that pressure. However, because of the way that I have helped them to embody my baby is coming, and I don't know exactly what path it is. I know what I'm holding in my vision of what I want as possible. And I'm not going to let anybody project their fears or their timelines onto me. And when I start to feel those doubts, I'm going to ask, is this actually mine? Or is this somebody else in my head trying to tell me again that my way is wrong? Because birth is not linear. Like, in any sense of the word, if you look at nature, you will see it. You will see it if you look into nature. A flower, the seasons, the weather. You think what should happen, and then you are surprised by what actually unfolds. And you need to appreciate the journey as much as the destination. And in the case of a business or a possible new relationship, a new connection, new friendship building, new business partnership, new baby, new addition to the family, it is really exciting. This is a big goal, right? This is a big dream that's being realized, and you're seeing the progress towards it, and you just want to run to the finish line. However, you might not be ready yet, or something needs to happen first for you to really get there. That last 20% needs to happen. Or maybe you need to put a little bit more focus on yourself to become a vibrational match. And again, if you rush that or let other people rush you, you're going to get into fear. You're going to start doubting yourself, and you might stop just before you're 3 feet from gold. There are so many women that I've helped over the years and who I've talked to who have been like, I had no idea I was in transition. I had no idea how close I was to my goal. And then somebody said, oh, it looks like you're having a hard time. How about you get the epidural? I got the epidural and it screwed up my birth. Or that I was so close to going into labor on my own, but I didn't know that. And I got the Pitocin to start inducing my labor, and it was really, really painful and traumatic. And I could have avoided that, and I could have had the home birth that I wanted if only I had recognized that my timeline was not somebody else's timeline. We do people a disservice when we set up timelines and expectations, because what works for us and what achieved our success, or what we've seen in books as research and saying this is how you get the optimal results, that may not be what's right for you. So I did something in my birth that was completely unconventional, that a lot of people would have said, are you crazy? And at the same time, I was committed to not going back in that hospital. It was like, you will have to drag me kicking and screaming. And not even that. You won't even be able to do that because I'll probably fight back too hard and you'll get bruised and it won't be fun. I would have to be unconscious for you to get me into that hospital and agree to any medical intervention. because now I have the information, the education from everyone that I have been following. I have gone through with a fine-tooth comb over all of this research. I've delved deep into history and I see what's going on and I have the psychology background. And then there's no way that you're going to gaslight me into going back to that hospital just because I'm not following what you think is an appropriate timeline for my labor. So I also recognize that maybe my midwife didn't want to do that and her hands were tied. She's not a bad person. I love her. If I was to run into her again, my daughter would probably give her a big hug, just like she did when she was like 3. She ran to her and gave her a big hug. So, I mean, my midwife had her own things that she had to do because unfortunately, when you work in the system, there are certain things that have to happen in order for the system to run the way it is. But I mean, my friend and mentor, Dawn Thompson, she even said this on her podcast, and she's mentioned it's like the system works exactly how it's supposed to work. It's just, it doesn't work for us. It works for the system. So you have to be willing to go against that. And I broke the rules. I had been laboring for 24 hours and I sent the doula home and I sent the midwife home. And I made the decision that I wasn't calling either of them back until I was sure I was in labor for my doula. And all she needed to do was keep the pool warm for me while my partner at the time and my son were at swimming lessons. And then she got to go home because I really didn't need anybody in my space. I recognized that I can't be watched. And then I didn't call the midwife until I was pushing. And even then, I even told my partner, I'm like, hold off, don't call her yet. And then I felt down. I'm like, oh, yeah, no, the head's out. Yeah, the head's coming. So, yeah, I guess by the time she gets here, it'll be fine. Because I wanted to make sure that I was at the point of no return. Because I knew what would happen if I was just sort of pushing, but I was not at the point of no return because I had been trying to do that the first time with my son. It's like, I'm going to birth him in the tub, even though it's against the rules. I'm a rule breaker. That's what I do. I find loopholes. My clients really appreciate my loopholes that I find because it allows them to take back their power. And I didn't follow the signs enough. And they were able to still have time to move me to the bed. And that's when things stalled out. That's when my trauma happened because now I was on somebody else's timeline of when I needed to birth my baby. So I wasn't going on no more timelines. It's like, this baby is coming out. Like I am at the point of no return. This baby is coming out. And the thing you need to recognize with that is there's a point of no return where you say something to a romantic partner and it's like, this is it. Like, this is it. And whether this happens fast now or whether you still need more time, like, we know this is it. So I'm okay if you need to do whatever you need to do because I know it's inevitable. Like, it's all been said. There is no more mystery. Like, you know it's happening. Just like with birth, you're pregnant. You know eventually that baby is coming out. You get to a certain point in your business, you get enough of that confirmation that yes, you are doing something incredible for the people that you're serving, and that without you, they would be like, I don't know what to do. And some of them come back to you in hindsight and they're like, maybe if I had have taken you up on your offer, maybe I don't know if something would be different. I don't know. Because there's two people. Even when there's an expert coming in or somebody who's like embodying that, it's like they know the path, they know the different traps you can fall into. They can only help you as much as you help yourself. And when you are the mother with the baby, you can only do so much on your side. You also have the external factors, which I also help control for with what I teach, but there's a baby there too. And the baby has their own journey and their own timeline. And you can say all you want that you want to be able to give birth by 39 weeks to avoid the induction that the medical system is trying to push on you. And at the same time, well, what happens if that baby has a timeline? It's like, no, I won't be ready until after 42 weeks. Well, when we put a timeline on that and then we have to stick to that timeline, we're now we're making a decision out of a place of fear because we're trying to avoid something, not recognizing that that in itself is a trap. So while I can appreciate guidelines, I can also say that they can be incredibly restricting for people. And we need to stop putting everybody in a box. And the same thing, it's like if somebody says to you, your business is not going to get off the ground because you haven't had a certain level of success within 3 years, and that's the timeline to tell you, like, it'll never happen. No. If somebody tells you that relationship that you have been working towards, like, it's never going to happen because you're not getting a certain level of commitment at a certain point, it's never going to happen. Or your child doesn't seem to be meeting their milestones at the right time, so it's never going to happen. Like, imagine if somebody said to me, well, your daughter is really behind in her spelling and her reading for the level for grade 3, what she should be doing. So she's probably always going to have problems with reading and writing. I don't believe that for a second. Do you know why? Because my daughter is committed. My daughter loves to read. She loves to write. And yeah, maybe she might be behind in her class, but she'll catch up. Just like I used to really suck at math. Like there was just no way that I would play with numbers. And then when I was committed to uncovering the mess in the birth system and understanding the actual statistics, guess who learned math? I got a passion for it because now it was tied to something that I was committed to. So let go of the timelines of what others should do and let go of the timelines of what you're excited about. Like, yeah, you're excited and it will happen and it will be awesome. And in the meantime, you need to wait. And it's okay to wait. It's okay to throw out the timeline. It's okay to just let things settle. Because sometimes what needs to happen is you need to just let go, knowing that the outcome is still inevitable. As long as there is no complication that comes up where you really intuitively feel you need to change your plan a little bit, you don't have to push on the outside. You can let things just fall as they will, knowing that it's already yours, that it's either this or something better. And if you do make a mistake and you rush it, well, that's a lesson and it will serve you better in the future. We don't need to interfere. We can invite, like, even as a coach, sometimes people are like, well, you could have pushed me harder. And I'm like, intuitively, I felt no. And here is why. Because I'm also protecting my energy. And I'm at the point now, it's like I put my magic out there but I'm not going to drag somebody over to my stuff and make them pay attention. Because that in itself is like a parent taking their kid and dragging them and making them do something. How much is that kid really going to listen? Well, they're not. It's done out of fear. It's done out of obligation. It's done out of compliance. And the work that I do, I mean, as I said, I don't really care what anybody thinks of me. So I'm just going to say it. There are enough people out there that will tell you what to do and how to do it and make you bad and wrong if you don't do it their way. And they will threaten punishment and they will threaten bad things are going to happen to you if you don't do it my way. And they will put a whole lot of pressure on you to do it their way. And then you have buyer's remorse afterwards. You have regret afterwards. And I'm not willing to be part of that. I'm just not. There are enough people in this world that will use ultimatums to try to get the timeline that they expect to get. You'll still have one foot out the door. You'll still be looking for that escape. I will not put anyone in a cage. I will not seduce anyone into a cage. I want someone to come to me willingly because they have seen the magic that I have put out there with my glass slipper method, as I call it. They see how valuable it is. They see the success stories of the people around me, not just in my work, but also it's like, hey, look at this amazing relationship that I have with my friends. Like, I have this community. I have all this love and abundance. Look what I'm doing for them. Look what I've done for you in the past. Do you trust me? Do you believe that I actually do have your best interest at heart and that I love you no matter what? And you just got to step up and it's all yours. That's why I have 3 paths for working with me now. It's like you can get my stuff for free. It's all scattered out there. You're going to have to do all the work yourself to put it together, but it's out there. It doesn't take any of my energy to do that. It's already created. It's based on things that I've already done, things that lit me up at the time to create, because that's important. I'm not creating content and putting my magic out there and being like, oh, it's Tuesday. I got to go and do this. Oh, it's Wednesday. I got to do this. I mean, today is Thursday and I get to write my newsletter. And I have gotten it to the point where it's like, I'm going to accumulate all of the magic and wisdom of the week from the last newsletter. Then I'm going to see the themes, the patterns that emerged, and what I created in that time out of the joy and inspiration that came to me. And I'm putting that in the newsletter in a particular theme, the theme of the week. And in that newsletter, they get the bulk of what I've got. And I just put it out there. It's a joy to write that newsletter. It's not a chore. So I have the vibration of this is exciting, this is fun, this is play. It's also strategic and it's also got a purpose of educating and it's got a purpose of inviting them into going deeper. Next level, I've got my courses. It's like there's a little bit more access to me, but not too much because again, the most important thing that you have is your time and your energy. Those are the most important things you need to protect is your time and your energy. So when I say I am committed to my clients having an empowered birth, or I'm committed to my friends having the best, most extraordinary life, whatever it is that I'm committed to the growth and potential of somebody, to them achieving all of their dreams, at the same time, I'm also committed to protecting my energy. So I can give them all the magic, but if they don't take the magic, I'm not going to give more because I have other things I need to do and I need to protect my time. So my coaching is very expensive now. Being my friend is like reserved for those who light me up as well as I light them up because I know I light people up. I know my power now. I know why the light stealers and energy vampires were so attracted to me when I had no boundaries. Because I was giving all of my magic and I'm like, oh, here you go, here you go, here you go. But there was no more magic left for me. And when I had children, I recognized I needed that magic for me. And the thing is, like with my clients, one thing I tell them to do at the very end of their pregnancy when they're waiting for labor to happen and they're going into that birth space is to turn off their phones. Because I know that there's going to be family members out there who are going to be very eager to know when the baby is there. And it is very distracting. I know this because in my own labor with my daughter, I lied. Yes, that's right, family. I lied about my due date. It was not April 12th. It was March 29th. My daughter was born on the 31st, but I said that it was a different day, weeks in advance on purpose. And even though I had said it was April 12th, I still got people asking if I had signs of labor in the month of March. Still. So it didn't even matter that I had lied about the due date. They still were asking. They were still pestering me with it. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm really, really happy now that I lied about my due date. And I didn't even announce when I was in labor. In fact, my mother called me when I was in labor and I didn't tell her I was in labor. I refused to even tell her I was in labor. I refused to tell anybody I was in labor. Because if I'm in labor, other people are now going to want to check up on me to see where I'm at. And here's the thing I tell my clients is like, don't tell anybody that you've had the baby until you have at least had 24 hours to recover. And that is because the first 24 hours after the baby is born is incredibly important. Bonding time where the baby needs to imprint on the mother and the father, and they should not have anybody in their space. The absolute worst thing about bringing home my baby from the hospital with my first was that not even 4 hours after I got home, well-meaning neighbors came in and I had to basically sit there and pretend like I didn't want people in my space. And I'm an introvert. So it was introvert hell to have so many visitors. So with my second, I put a post on Facebook the next day with my daughter beside me in the bed. And I said, look who I woke up next to. By the way, I'm not taking any visitors. I have a VIP list. If you're not on the VIP list, then you'll have to wait. And if you want to see the baby, you're going to have to be bringing something to the table. And one of my friends at the time, she called me up a few weeks later and she's like, hey, can I see the baby? I've got a double chocolate chip frappuccino with extra whipped cream for you. It's a venti. I'm like, you're going to give me my favorite drink from Starbucks? Oh, yeah, you can see the baby. But that is a whole other topic that I could get into in the birth space. But the point is that if you are going to take somebody's time and energy, you need to be willing to give as much as you're getting in return. And The same thing if they want to take up your time and energy, same idea. You do not want to be pushing on the outside and you don't want other people pushing on you because maybe it's a mismatch in vibration, maybe it's not the right timing, maybe you have other things that you're working on, and this is why you want to find different ways to put different people within your sphere of influence so that you're not depleting yourself. Because if you're depleting yourself, guess what? Labor is going to take a lot longer and it's going to hurt a hell of a lot more. That's the message. Take it from someone who's in the birth space, who's also been paying attention to trends within society. I have a huge sphere of influence and networking with my friends and what they're doing in their own space in business and relationships. And I've seen all these patterns. And I know from experience that if you push for things to happen in your timeline, you may not be respecting theirs, and you may not be respecting the balance, and you may not even be able to keep it and get it your way because you've upset the balance of nature. So, no more Pitocin, no more timelines, no more due dates. And if you have someone who is pregnant in your life, please, please do not ask them if they've had the baby yet. Do not ask them if they have signs of labor yet. Do not even ask them when they are in labor and you know they're in labor, where they are in their progress, because that puts doubts in their heads. And they might already be hearing that same message from other people that are also having expectations, and it screws the whole thing up. And if they've already had one devastating experience, they are going to be even more determined to not have that happen again. And at the same time, they still have fears and doubts come up. And if you need any help in how to support people in your life, because I mean, we all know someone who's pregnant or is going to become pregnant. Like it's part of our life cycle. Please do yourself a favor and don't listen to the mainstream advice and timelines, and recognize that this is their own individual journey and that you can share information. I mean, I have a whole bunch of information, and I also have friends who I am in connection with who also have even more. And like, just let me know. Seriously, just let me know. And if you're loving this, just as a general sense, well, the onus again is on you to reach out, because I don't chase. I don't chase romantic connections because, first of all, I know that when my true love is ready, oh, he's going to come in. He's just got to be ready. And maybe he is ready. Maybe, for all I know, he could be getting ready to message me in the next few days. Now, I do have my kids this weekend, so obviously we wouldn't be able to meet up. FaceTime is always an option. Texting can be fun. But, you know, timing. Last week I had things open, but then I was also really tired and I needed to sleep. It was what I needed. Sometimes the timing doesn't add up because you need to focus on something else. I know my business is going to take off. I know my book is going to sell, and I know my programs are going to it's going to get out there. I have the connections. I have the confirmations. It hasn't all happened the way I thought it would when I first conceived the idea, and I've been gestating the idea, but it's been pretty good. And I know that when the labor really gets going and The birth happens. Well, it's going to be spectacular. It's not going to be traumatic. In all areas of my life, I have been conceiving and gestating and waiting. And it's on purpose. It's on purpose why I'm waiting, why I'm letting things unfold, why I'm following my intuition on everything. And I'm not worrying about the timeline because I know what happened in the past when I was worrying about the timeline. It came from fear. So, whether it's yourself or somebody else in your life and you're thinking it's taking longer than it should, question that. Is it? Or is there something else there that they need to work through or you need to work through for it to pop, for it to happen? Because when you're a vibrational match for something and it's still taking a little bit longer, it could be that the rest needs to catch up for it to really work. But you've got to trust that it will happen or it won't. You have to believe that it's inevitable. And trust me, if you're having a home birth, eventually that baby is coming out. There's really no need to rush the process. If you're otherwise healthy and nothing is wrong, and it's just the external environment telling you that you need to do something, maybe you need to change your environment. Maybe you need to change your support. Maybe the facilitator you've chosen isn't actually believing in you the way you thought that they would. Maybe they have limitations. Maybe the education that you received isn't quite it. Maybe you're stuck in fear and you really don't believe it's going to happen. So you're deliberately holding back. Whatever it is, well, I've told you my 5 pillars. You can go look those up again. It's in my book. That book. Just so you know, it's there. It's all there. I wrote it to protect my energy, but I'm not going to beat you over the head with it. So it's up to you to open the book. It's up to you to reach out, ask me questions. It's up to you to pass this on if you think that this is going to help somebody. They're not going to find it on their own. They might not even know to look for it. It all starts with you. Anyway, I am going to go and answer a message in my business account because somebody actually reached out to me from one of my Facebook posts and they said, "What is this school? Tell me about this school." I don't know. They might be interested in purchasing Academy. They might want to take my classes, in which case I might start them again. I had a lot of fun running them. It takes a lot of my energy to do that. But with the right people, I actually feel more energized. So depending on what their energy is and if it's a vibrational match, could be fun. Could just be some random troll who just is trying to sell me some product to 10x my business and whatever. I don't know. I'm approaching it like I would approach signs of labor. I don't know if this is it. It might be. But until something concrete happens, I'm not going to jump on a yoga ball or do all the exercises or try to get things going. No, I'm going to go back to bed or I'm going to go bake a cake. I'm going to just continue on with my day because it's still too early to tell. And if it's for me, I'll know later. Again, nature is so wise. And when you really understand birth, the way I understand birth, and understand patterns, the way I understand patterns, and there's not everything that I know, you have to have a healthy level of curiosity. You have to also recognize that you don't know everything and that you make mistakes. You have to have all of it. Well, it's so much easier to wait when you know that it's all going to turn out good in the end. It's all going to work out exactly how it needs to. And you don't have to control it anymore. You don't have to be afraid of it anymore. You can just trust. All right. Now I am going to go. I love you, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.